something else we want to talk about, money. I want to talk about the WWE and the UFC merging. That's right. Vince McMahon, the Grapefruits man, has merged with UFC with Dana White. So this came out today where they actually, WWE and UFC parent company Endeavor merged with an SEC filing. And so what's happening is 51% is going to be controlled by Endeavor and 49% will be controlled by the WWE. It's a new company valued at $21 billion. New public entity will be run by Ari Emanuel. And the new company reflects $12.1 billion in enterprise value for UFC and $9.3 billion for WWE and $50 to $100 million annual cost synergies as a result of the all-stock merger. So they have a new board of directors, 11 members board of directors, 6 selected by UFC, 5 selected by WWE, which is going to be appointed at a later date. So this is a big one. I mean, we talked about this before about how, WWE was trying to sell. Vince McMahon came back, even though he had all these allegations and he was paying all these women. I mean, come on, he was fucking around with all the girls, and then he's paying them off, for years. And he paid the board of directors. We just talked about that last week, like $17 million, paying them back for all this shit.
Garbage. He's such a garbage person.
but he had to be here to sell the company, which UFC, WWE kind of makes sense to me. Like you're already talking about like. A lot of people probably watch both as it is, so maybe it'll help branch out more people to WWE that haven't been there or UFC that were WWE fans. It's probably a win-win for both companies. So I saw this, I laughed. I'm like, okay, because then they said Saudi Arabia before they were going to sell it to them. Like that made sense to me too, because they always go to Saudi Arabia. Vince is taking that money up and down the checkbook. He's like, give me that, and all the old wrestlers come back for it too. I don't know, but you see this, okay? I'm just like. All right, makes sense. Is it going to change anything, though, or are the companies going to be the same? What do you think, Sean? Are they going to be the same, or is it going to change anything? Is it revolutionize the entertainment industry?
I think the two entities are still going to continue to be what they've been doing, which is a very specific sort of entertainment for a very specific sort of person. What I would love to see is some sort of evolution between the two groups, right? Where you actually have... the UFC and the WWE blending characters, blending properties in some way to make it a little bit more
crossover.
Palatable. Yeah,
crossover.
I think that's where it's going, and I think that people that expect UFC to maintain and still be the UFC, I think that's going to still be there. WWE has had a winning formula for decades. I don't see them changing fundamentally at this point. I think it just opens them up to a new generation of talent and a new fan base for sure.
Yeah. I like your idea though, merging it like that, like having, honestly, that fits right into their narrative, WWE. Like, someone's coming through the crowd. Who is it? It's the UFC champion. You know what I mean? That makes sense. Like, why wouldn't they do that?
Is it one real and is it one fake?
It's totally. I mean, WWE is it's scripted. They get hurt, but it's not like UFC. You know what I mean? There's planned, and it's. If you ask my uncle, he'll be like, "Oh, it's all real," but I'll be like, "Not so much."
I agree with Rachel. She just said it makes UFC lose credibility as a sport, and I'm like,
"Oh yeah."
I kind of agree with that in a lot of ways. Like, WWE is like it's drama, it's acting. I know like they do real things. Like I have a friend who's a wrestler. Like I'm not unfamiliar with like what they do, but it's still like acting. Like there's someone who's like set to win. There's still like a whole thing. Like there's heroes and villains, like heels and like there's a whole
heels and faces. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Thing with it. Like it's not like it's a thing. Like it's not UFC. UFC is like fighting. It's actual fighting. Like it's mixed martial arts styles going up against different mixed martial arts styles in an actual like fighting arena. Like there's blood on the floor in those fights.
Yeah.
If you watch early UFC, like some of those old Shamrock fights, like those are fucking nasty. Like, I mean, seriously, like UFC gets downright fucking gnarly brutal sometimes. Like, I'm not a sports person, but I like some carnage. So like when shit gets down, like I watch it, and like I've seen some UFC fights, and I'm like, damn, like I've seen some of those fights where they kick that guy and the guy's leg like snapped right in the
you're like, what the shit?
I'm like, that shit. I'm like, I'm here for that. I'll watch that. So it's like when I think of wrestling it's like when I think of one of those guys walking in against like that fucking one crazy Irish guy, I can't think of his name. The
Sheamus?
Conor McGregor.
Conor McGregor. I'm like, I don't.
wrestling.
McGregor will kill one of those wrestlers. I'm like, he's insane. I'm like, what's he gonna do to them?
Conor McGregor, Mankind, put him in a cage.
Oh well,
let's see what happens.
Mankind's a little different. I mean, that guy's crazy.
I'm like, throw me off. Have a nice day.
Like, I mean, I don't know. Like, it's hard for me to like look at those two worlds and combine them together. And I always feel like the people of those two worlds don't necessarily come together either. Like, there's a very particular type of fan that comes from UFC that the wrestling type definitely don't like. There's definitely like, everybody likes to watch somebody get their ass beat. You know, like there's always that crossover, but like, I don't know, there's a particular type of person that takes getting their ass beat seriously, and then there's just like your old rednecks that just like to watch them ass beaten down and like whatever. And so it's like, I don't know, the good old boys don't necessarily, you know, align with the UFC guys so much where they take all that shit way too seriously. And
maybe they'll try making it more real, though, UFC. Maybe they'll kind of do some more. I don't know. Vince McMahon will still be involved in subs aspect until the man dies. So I think he's still going to hold on to what he wants. But you're right. They're very different. I don't
like him as a person. Like, I really genuinely hate him. But I genuinely am interested to know what, what's his face? The one that's got the podcast. God, why can't I think of his name?
You got to narrow it down.
One of the wrestlers or one of our...
No. The Joe Rogan. I want to know what Joe Rogan thinks of this.
Yeah, Joe Rogan probably.
Because he's
he's getting paid.
Because he's someone who's like opinion when it comes to something like this I'd actually listen to. I'm like,
let's phone him in. Joe, come on.
Yeah.
Joe
Rogan. Come on, cruise control.
He just pops in right now.
Like, I know
Let me tell you what I think about this.
People, but we got you. We just want to ask you a question about UFC. It's the one area we'll trust your opinion on.
I don't know though. Like, I could see them blurring together a little bit, but maybe they'll just be their own thing. But it's a pretty big move that WWE sold to them, and that they merged with them and making this huge company. It's massive now, like $1 billion company, and it's only going to see how they bleed together. Maybe they'll sell merchandise at each other's things, or maybe they'll have like one big. I don't know.
It feels like a monopoly.
It does kind of. It does. Kind of Vince McMahon already had a monopoly on wrestling, though. Like, he really was dominating wrestling. There's other companies, but honestly, when it comes down to it, he's bought his competition over and over again.
Yeah, he popped them out from repeatedly.
Yeah. And so he'll just keep doing it. I mean, that's what he's kept doing. Now, UFC probably has more money to buy whoever's out there now. You know what I mean? They might do that. They might merge with AEW and buy that shit out and like bring that in and then, you know, make a bigger wrestling company. You never know. Some changes might come. I don't know. We'll see. I'm excited to see where it goes. And maybe they'll push Vince out more and more and more, because the man, even though he brought a lot to the company and he made it what it is, he also is problematic, I think, for the image of the company nowadays. And, well, like, just retire, man. Enjoy your days. You've done enough, you know, but he can't. He can't do it.